Good morning again, guys. Still Friday, about 8:45 now, and interesting stuff coming out in the news that, let's put it this way, the overseas news, certainly not getting any coverage on in the States at this point, or Canada, or anywhere, but that doesn't surprise me. We're all concerned about COVID restrictions and protests and everything, which no doubt are important, but what's going on in the rest of the world is very important as well. Now, if you didn't know, Vladimir Putin and President Xi are having a meeting. Okay, Putin is on his first overseas trip of the year, and he has gone to China. And of course, Xi hasn't left China since COVID started, but still taking diplomatic guests, I guess, if you will. And with the Olympics starting, of course, you have some diplomats that are going to China. So Xi and Putin got together today. Obviously, it's further in the day for them than it is for us. Well, here's what gets real interesting. And we've talked about this whole Ukraine and Taiwan and everything like that. Well, in a lengthy press statement, joint statement between the two of them after their talks, they both agreed that, in their opinion, the United States is responsible for inciting riots in Hong Kong and for pushing the Taiwanese independence. And Russia has accused the United States of destabilizing Ukraine in the same way. Now, Russia has come out and officially said that they consider Taiwan to be part of China and do not support its independence whatsoever. China has come out and said they do not support Ukraine being part of NATO whatsoever. This is an alliance, guys, that you think of with the most populous country in the world and the largest landmass country in the world. Now, I would venture to say that the relations between Russia and China are probably as good, if not better, than they have been ever since Mao and Stalin. Okay, you're going back to the communist superpowers aligning again. Now, this is where it gets worrisome, and I've talked about the cornered animal, okay, which is the United States and the leftist control that we have that are more concerned about pronouns than pretty much anything else. I mean, you look at what's coming out of the White House, and they're saying, "Oh, crime isn't a problem. Oh, the invasion on the southern border isn't a problem," anything like that. But let's go and dip our nose into international affairs, okay? And of course, what is this doing? We all know, I mean, you pretty much have to be a moron to not figure this one out, that the U.S. is trying to jawbone either China or Russia into a war, okay? Because Biden is a cornered animal, the Democrat Party is a cornered animal, and they are going to do anything crazy they can right now to unify, if you will, the country. For some goofy reason, they think that going to war is going to unify the United States. Not happening that way, okay? The only thing that's unifying in the United States right now is pretty much the hatred of the leftist policies, i.e. mandates and all this sort of crap that's going on, all right? Biden's approval rating is down to about a third. Well, this is where it starts getting more interesting. And I'm going to show you a map here first, okay? This is a map of Europe as to who is NATO members, okay? And obviously you can look, it covers the majority of NATO, you see, or majority of Europe. You see where Ukraine is. You understand, of course, that Russia doesn't want Ukraine as part of NATO, because then, of course, literally you could have military troops, enemy military troops in their mind, right on their border. Not that they already don't have them in Estonia and Latvia, but we're not talking about, super big countries or anything like that. Belarus, of course, being an ally of Moscow. And then you look at some of the other brown, is for lack of color in here, countries in Europe that aren't. Finland being the big one. Okay, Finland has a large border with Russia. Okay, now Finland and Sweden they have a joint defense treaty with the United States, but they are not members of NATO. And of course, they're kind of being pushed a little bit toward that with all of this. But Russia has come out and said if Sweden or Finland join NATO, there's going to be hell to pay. All right, so you get that. Then you look at some of the other ones, Ireland, Switzerland, Austria, Bosnia-Herzegovina, Moldova, Serbia. Well, all of those, with the exception of Bosnia-Herzegovina, have constitutional neutrality or something of the sort for the country, that they will not join any military alliance. Bosnia-Herzegovina wants to be in NATO, but NATO really doesn't see any reason for it. So, nothing's been done. All right. But so this is where it comes into the economic part of it. Now, we've talked many times, and you guys are probably aware of SWIFT, all right, which is the international trading of commodities, whatever it would be, and how it's paid for. And it's all done via the dollar, if you will, okay? Now, there's been talk on and off about kicking Russia out of SWIFT. Well, Russia's fine with that because they have something that's called the SPF, all right, or SPFS, I'm sorry. However it translates in Russian, don't even get me there, all right. China also has something similar, okay, their cross-border interbank payment system. The Russians are trying to align to integrate the Chinese system and the Russian system. Why? Because then they can literally take SWIFT, the Western means of controlling the world economy, out of the picture, and then they can control everything. And I mean, you've already got 23 foreign banks that are connected to SPFS. Okay, so this isn't like it's something new. Armenia, Belarus, Germany, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Switzerland. I mean, the list goes on and on. Then of course you get everybody that's tied to China. So how does the money move around? Well, again, this is pushing the United States out, which is why the Biden administration is trying to force their hands in other places and stuff like that, trying to make them the enemy. Go back to the Cold War. Now, I'm going to give you this. We all know in the early 20th century, the industrial age, okay, that pretty much made the United States the superpower it was. Then you had the information age, which the U.S., again, was pretty much the leader in all of this information technology, whole nine yards. I mean, Japan got in, Korea got in, China got in, but the infrastructure was pretty much invented in the United States. So both those things drastically increased the wealth in the United States of the people and of the government. What everybody kind of misses, and it's never even been coined, is the manufacturing age. Now, we all know that pretty much anything you want to buy is made in China. Remember this, guys, 50 years ago, 1972, when Nixon opened up China to the World Trade Organization, China was a third world country. In 50 years, they've gone to the point of from being a third world country to now being the preeminent superpower economically, not quite militarily yet, but, as China goes, so does the rest of the world. Now, here's something interesting for you, and I talk about China, Russia getting closer and closer and closer. We all know the U.S. debt crossed $30 trillion the end of last week. Congratulations. We're now $30 trillion in debt. China, with 4 times the population, is $13 trillion in debt. Okay? Russia has hardly any. Russia's $280 billion in debt. Okay? Our interest payments are Russia's debt, basically, if you start talking about the equivalents there. But here's what's even worse. The U.S. trade deficit, okay, basically we bring stuff in, $80.2 billion more in goods than we export each year. So we are, the United States, thanks, reliant on other countries. And just for case in point here, in November of 2020, okay, the last election, we had a trade deficit of $65 billion. So we've increased $15 billion in Joe's tenure, or about 25%. Well, you want to take a look at China and Russia? China has a $208 billion trade surplus, meaning they send more out than they import. Russia has, what was the exact number? A $92 billion trade surplus, meaning they send out more than they import. So these countries are importing less and have less debt than the United States. And somehow, some way, the U.S. thinks it is in control of the world economy. This is a recipe for disaster. It's not going to take long. If Russia and China do tie together economically, we talk about, whatever you want, they can easily take down the West, the European Union, NATO, United States, take us down economically. They could strangle us that way. Doesn't have to be a shooting war, doesn't have to be an EMP, doesn't have to be a grid down scenario, anything of the sort. They're playing 4-dimensional chess while, Biden is playing checkers. Because they can completely shut it down. Washington knows this. This is why they are trying to push this crap in Ukraine and in Taiwan, at least in my opinion. It's a cornered animal, guys. This is the problem we have. Not that the United States will ever wind up being a third world country. I don't see that happening. But we are not going to be the preeminent superpower anymore. Empires fall. It doesn't happen overnight. It's a slow, methodical collapse. Look at the Roman Empire. I mean, it took a couple 100 years for the Roman Empire to fall apart, but it fell apart. The same thing is going to happen to the United States. Could it? It's probably already started. Okay, how long it's going to take. But as I put it, the manufacturing age, until we start bringing the jobs back, the manufacturing back, and stop being reliant on made in China, we're doomed. No, this isn't fear porn. This is just a dose of reality. Okay, y'all know that my belief has been as an isolationist. Screw everybody else. We've got everything we need here. Build it here, make it here, harvest it here, grow it here. There's very, very few things in the world. It's usually some of these uh, minerals or whatever that we can't harvest in the United States. Okay, figure out a way around it. There's more than one way to skin a cat. We are not going to have a choice as a nation here soon to be anything other than independent. It's time we circle the wagons. Why you circle the wagons? You defend what's in the middle. Ukraine is their problem. Taiwan is their problem. Europe is their problem. It's time the world gets back to taking care of their own. Screw this globalism crap. Because I'm telling you right now, China and Russia have nothing to do with globalism. Okay? The only way they want globalism is if they're in charge. It's certainly not everybody's equal, this euphoric kumbaya crap that, oh, gee, everybody's going to... No. I mean, Xi Jinping, hey, you know what? If the entire world is under Chinese control, he's cool with that. Personally, I'm not. And that is what you really need to watch for in regards to a worldwide SHTF event. You know, sure, we all have our personal ones. Power's out because of snow in Texas. Power's out because of snow in Massachusetts, whatever. But yeah, we all have our own little SHTF events. But the apocalypse, if you will, like I said, not going to be an EMP. It's not going to be Chinese coming over the hill. It's going to be an economic collapse. That, in a nutshell, is why the morons in Washington are doing all this. I know, wonky shit again, right? Have a good one. Pinball out.